Food and Wine Insider is a weekly look at a $1.5 trillion industry touching every American. Devoted to the business of purveying food and decanting wines, Food and Wine Radio is a unique program highlighting not food recipes or wine vintages, but how to make a profit while satisfying America's palates. In this competitive but highly rewarding sector, many men and women have made profits while fulfilling a dream. Food and Wine Insider is all about better managing any business involving food and wine. Each week, your co-hosts sit down with successful restaurateurs, food mavens, winery vintners, store owners, food suppliers, and other leaders in the worldwide industry that centers on foodstuff and wine. In frank give-and-take sessions, guests and panelists talk about the business of bringing healthy and pleasurable foods and wines to others. Your Food and Wine Radio host are Ann Daw, former president of the Specialty Food Association and a longtime food executive who has held senior positions both here and abroad with Kraft Foods and Philip Morris. Don Mazzella, a nationally known business commentator. On each show, they invite leaders of the world's culinary and wine industries to share the secrets of their success. Visit us at foodandwineinsider.com.
And when entering the food and wine industry, many individuals do not appreciate how crucial distribution is to profits. Here to tell us about one way to add profits is Nicholas Daniel Richards of ShipHero. Nicholas,
hey,
welcome
guys.
to the program.
Hi, Don. How are you?
We're fine. I'm going to just turn it over to Ann from here on. Go ahead, Ann.
Thank you, Don. Hi, Nicholas. Welcome to Food and Wine Insider. Great to have you with us today.
Great to be here.
You know, I was looking at your background, and it seems you've always been in the tech field. Can you talk a little bit about your early experience as Chief Technology Officer and Chief Digital Officer for the National Basketball Players Association?
Sure. So that was getting myself into something I was completely unfamiliar with, but because of my technology background, I think I was able to bring a lot of those skills. So for the NBPA, it was helping the Basketball Players Association and all the players, all the NBA players, be able to use technology, understand technology, and also a lot of NBA players are very passionate about tech and are involved in their own startups. So taking all of those things and being able to come up with interesting products and services that connected the fans to the players and helped players advance their careers and help them understand what they could do in the field of tech.
Wonderful. You created ShipHero in, I think it's 2013. What was the inspiration behind this development?
So one of the things that sort of the area of focus for me over the hundreds of years it feels that I've been building technology as being digital user experiences, and a big part of that has been e-commerce. So back in 2006, I was fortunate enough to be a leader on the team that built the BBC global e-commerce operations and infrastructure. And we learned a lot in terms, we were coming at it from how do you build an e-commerce experience, but we ended up accidentally, sort of on purpose, learning about fulfillment and how you work with 3PLs and how you distribute products. And what I found was you could create amazing software for the e-commerce experience, but it was extremely difficult to come up with a good solution on the fulfillment side. So everything that happens after the order takes place. So that was my first insight. And then a few years later, a longtime friend of mine who owns a few e-commerce companies came to me and said, look, technology, we get along. I keep banging my head on fulfillment and shipping orders and getting these orders out. Let's come up with something that solves this problem for my business. And if we can come up with something that really works well, maybe it's something that other businesses would be interested in. And, so that's when we started in 2013.
Now, your product is relevant, is there a particular size company that your technology is most beneficial to? Is there any size limitation? I mean, obviously, as you get bigger and bigger, companies hopefully do fulfillment pretty well. But who's your target audience?
Yeah, and
probably would be.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of us, and just to note that, right? How many times have you experienced that online shopping journey where you order something from a fantastic brand where the product you're purchasing is not cheap, and then been disappointed by the amount of time it takes to get that product or lack of information? So yeah, you'd be surprised at how many large companies don't have their stuff together. So to answer the question, so right now our companies, our customers are two types. They are brands or merchants that do their own fulfillment, and they could have a single warehouse or distribution center, or they could have multiple distribution centers and brick and mortar locations, and they use those for shipping as well. Or you could have a 3PL. So we have our 3PL product, and that is actually 3PLs are those companies that you outsource your fulfillment to. So we sort of operate at a very wide spectrum, and we're serving customers anywhere from they manage 30 SKUs per day, and they're shipping 40 orders per day on average, to customers that are multi-billion-dollar organizations that are, dealing with $100, $200 million brands that are shipping out tens of thousands of orders per day. So we sort of see it at quite a wide spectrum.
In terms of trying to visualize how this works, can you explain exactly what the system does? Yeah,
so I guess sort of a high level, ShipHero, it's a cloud-based software platform. It works on your desktop browser, and we have mobile apps designed for iPads and iPhones for the team out in the warehouse, and it's aimed specifically at inventory fulfillment, shipping, and returns. And the typical businesses that use this are e-commerce businesses that will sell on different e-commerce platforms such as Shopify or BigCommerce or eBay, Amazon, and they may have multi-warehouse or the brick and mortar locations. And what this solution does is it is the glue that keeps all of your inventory synced up across your different sales channels. So if you're selling a product online, you want to make sure you don't oversell it. So when you're fulfilling orders or you're receiving inventory into your warehouse, those inventory numbers are automatically updated on that channel. And then as your team are getting orders in and they're processing those orders, they're doing that in an optimized way. So one of the problems you'll have in a warehouse, for example, is you'll get an order spike of 50 orders. And that's generally where your team is running around trying to, they're using paper pick lists or something, trying to get these orders fulfilled. And what our software does is they can just use an app, and it sort of takes the randomness out of the process. So it tells you, go to this location, pick these items. If you're using barcode scanners, because we have barcode scanning built in, fantastic, scan it. So we also have the verification. So it sort of takes that entire process, optimizes it, makes it very simple for the team. And then because everything is happening digitally, you have a digital footprint for everything that's going on. You know exactly everything that's happened with inventory. You know every shipping label that was generated. You know every single order that has been shipped. And if there's an order that is on hold, why it's on hold, and how to resolve it. So it's a complete solution for managing your warehouse and fulfillment operation.
It even sounds like it does a great job of traceability. If you need to know where's your product at any point in the supply chain, it sounds like it does that really well also. Let's say I'm a small company and I'm selling on Amazon. is your service relevant to that kind of company? And if so, what's the cost of the service, and what expense does it replace for the let's say the small company?
So I guess from a small company perspective, your challenge is scale and being able to operate at speed. So we typically see small companies that are going beyond that 30 order threshold. You know, they're selling on Amazon, they're selling online. They need to be, if you're selling on Amazon, if you're doing Seller Fulfilled Prime, or if you're doing FBA, you're using Amazon FBA. Obviously, Amazon has high standards for its merchants, so you don't want to have anything sent to Amazon that's incorrect, and you want to make sure you're getting those orders processed, especially if they're Prime orders, rapidly with Amazon, or Amazon will delist you. So your challenge as a small business is you're not going to go out and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on a WMS platform. You're not going to have a big ERP implementation, or you're not going to have the money to buy all of this expensive software. So you're going to be doing things manually, and that works fine until you get 30 or 40 orders in a day, and then that starts repeating. So your success can be your downfall if you don't have a system that helps you. And that's really, we see a majority of our customers that come in are those customers that they've hit that point, that threshold, 30 to 35 orders per day, and now the slightly inaccurate inventory before is now a major issue that they can't afford to have happening. They need to not overpay on their shipping labels, because now that adds up for each order that they're shipping. They need to make sure, if they're using Amazon FBA, that they're avoiding restocking fees and they're getting inventory to Amazon on time. So it's really success and speed that is the enemy of a small business if you're not using a good technology platform.
And so I'm a small company. What would I be looking at in terms of the cost of your service, and how do I think about what expense it replaces?
Yeah, so the basic cost is it's $99 per user, and that's it. There's no pricing based on number of SKUs or orders you fulfill or any of that stuff. And we also have the power of numbers when it comes to our shipping carrier integration. So if you're using us, you may be able to access better rates with USPS and DHL and all the major shipping carriers. As far as thinking about the costs that it would replace, so you're obviously not messing up on orders, you're not overselling, so that is hugely valuable. And then you're going to be able to save on things such as it's going to be much quicker to fulfill orders, because you have a system that's basically making all the decisions for you. So you're going to save a lot of time, and you're going to be able to you'll have multiple people in your warehouse that will be able to get their stuff done, and you'll know what they're doing, so you'll be able to make sure your team is optimized. And then you'll be able to replace all of those other apps. So I think what we tend to do is we tend to use Google Docs and maybe this app over here and this thing over there, and print some paper over here. This is what we hear from customers to try and solve these problems. And what ShipHero does is actually allows you to get rid of all of that and just have one single platform and one solution where you're paying $99 per user. And it's helping you optimize your business, and you're not letting your customers down, and you can just focus on growing your business and your operations.
That's really fantastic, and certainly takes a lot of complexity out of supply chain. And you're right in that the company can actually focus more on the marketing and getting people to think about buying their product rather than worrying about how they get it. So it does sound incredibly valuable. Can you I wonder if you wouldn't mind sharing a story of how ShipHero was a hero for our company. Obviously, not divulging the name of the company, but it would be really great for people to hear an actual story.
Yeah, it's so we're a small company, so we're really involved with our customers. So we get to go through the experience with a lot of our customers as they grow and as they scale. There are a few favorites I have out there. I think one of the ones that really stick out to me is a company that we worked with. They were running a small business. They had started about a year before, and they were selling apparel. And they were printing designs on the apparel, and the designs were very unique, and they gained a following because of that, and they were doing very well. And they would do their sales cycle would run when they pushed out some Instagram content or social content that would drive a sales spike. So they came to us. They were struggling with scale. We helped them. We helped them get set up, and they were using the basic inventory management, picking and packing, barcode scanning, and all of that stuff. About a year and a half later, they had reached a point where they were like, you know what, we've got this process down, and we've grown our business. We're going to pivot, and we're actually going to now provide this outsourced fulfillment service for other companies that are those smaller businesses. They're starting up, and they may need someone to take care of their fulfillment. So they actually became what is known in the industry as a 3PL. And that is something that we're seeing a bit, but to actually, go through that experience with a business, they were struggling to just manage their own inventory a year and a half before, and now I think they have about 20 customers. So 20 different brands that they manage inventory in a warehouse, and they're fulfilling orders for, and they're creating a very personalized experience for these brands. That's how they're differentiating themselves from other 3PLs. And I think that speaks volumes, because that not only says, hey, we can use ShipHero for ourselves, but I think we could actually use ShipHero to grow our business and also to be able to help others. And yeah, that really sticks out to me as a good success story.
Awesome. In the food business specifically, of course, there's supply chain issues for all types of products, but it's particularly acute for refrigerated and frozen products because you have to have refrigerated trucks or frozen trucks. You have to, if you're shipping to a consumer, you may need dry ice, et cetera. Have you looked at those areas? Have you worked with any companies in that area, and how does ShipHero help them be a little bit more efficient and effective in terms of the product getting to where it needs to be in a very efficient manner? Okay, awesome.
Oh, that's a great question. So we have a number of customers that handle food, alcohol, perishable goods. One of our biggest customers in Australia, and a customer we love and we wish they could deliver to us, U-Foods. They're shipping out tens of thousands of prepared meals every day. And one of the big things that we found in the learning curve and working with these businesses was the use of decision-making in the software. So a lot of it can be how the product is handled, and then the other part of it is how the product is shipped. And really what you want to do in order to be able to do this at scale is you want to reduce the decisions and the steps it takes to fulfill those orders by having some software automation in the process. So I guess the way we look at it is save the seconds, gain the shipments. So from a order coming in or from inventory being managed, how can you use rules, and we call them automation rules, but how can you use these automation rules to look at different parameters and then say, okay, based on these parameters, do this. You know, if it's an order based on these parameters, what's in the order, put a note on the order and give an instruction to the packer to do this. A good example on what you said about shipping something that requires dry ice. We've seen automation rules used for one of our customers where they are actually adding additional ice pack, dry ice packs to their packages, or heat packs to the packages, with the use of automation rules based on what's in the order and also where the order is going to. So if the order is going to somewhere cold, it doesn't require as many ice packs, and they're tracking the ice packs as SKUs themselves. They can track inventory for it, but they will, where the order is being shipped to will indicate how much dry ice they will actually put in the package, which we found kind of interesting. And that's really, obviously we don't have enough time on this conversation, but especially when it comes to alcohol, you know, how you manage the rules and regulations around dry states, and you know, for alcohol specifically, you need to be careful with that. We have customers that are using the automation rules that really optimize that process and sort of can flag an address based on its zip code, or say, hey, this needs to go with this courier and you know, requires an adult signature. And so you just automate it all. That seems to be the biggest game.
It sounds to me like even though you don't have a one-size-fits-all product, you have a product that, in fact,
every business is unique.
Tailored to the individual businesses. I think that's incredibly critical, so that it does what the brand and what the company needs. You talked a little bit about you know, product that you're helping from Australia, and I had a question in my mind about, you know, how many countries are you actually using this product in today, and which are the biggest countries for you at this point?
So I have no idea on the number of countries. It really astounds me. My role at ShipHero is as a co-founder is you know, to make sure our team is really focused on the product and the customer experience, and also I'm lucky to work with a lot of customers in making sure they're okay and they're growing. So I'm having these conversations with businesses all over the world, and there's just not enough hours in the day, literally, because you know, it's at the end of the day, and there's someone to speak to in Australia. So I would say the interesting areas for us that we see a lot of activity. So the US, obviously, there's a big market there. Canada. We see incredible activity in Canada, and I guess the additional bonus of all of our Canadian customers is they're extremely polite, which is always nice. And then Australia is a big market. There's a lot of activity in Australia, and then Northern Europe. So Norway, Denmark. We see a lot of activity there, Germany as well. But it seems to be, if there isn't a country that we haven't spoken to yet, no doubt we will be having a conversation with either a merchant or a 3PL at some point in the future. I guess that's just the world we live in now. It's just everything truly is global. And with the shipping carriers being able to, you know, we have all the systems in place to allow you, for example, to automatically generate customs and international shipping documentation for shipments that electronically are transmitted, so you don't have to print it and figure that out. I guess it really is a global trade. And we've just found ourselves in the right place at the right time as far as companies needing a solution, and we seem to have something that helps.
being able to have that automated custom declaration is really important because it can really hold up a shipment. And so it's interesting that you've solved that problem as well. Are there particular industries that you find are gravitating to this service? You mentioned obviously the alcohol industry. Are you any other industries that seem to be sort of relatively large users of the service?
I would say there maybe as consumers, this is not such a shocking trend, but from a logistics perspective, at least something that we see is a trend, and that is the subscription service. So we see a lot of activity with companies that may not have offered subscription service before, and they're starting to offer that subscription service, so the monthly box of whatever the product is. The other big area of growth and something that we're really focusing on is, so we've solved the problem of, or I say we've solved the problem, we're solving the problem of how a company can manage their inventory and fulfill their orders. The other big trend that we're forecasting, and we're also seeing the first signs of it, and we're preparing for, is the hybrid model, the hybridization of self-fulfillment and outsource fulfillment. So a company that manages their own inventory, ships their own orders, maybe if we were to take the US as an example, maybe they're on the East Coast and they have West Coast customers. One of the challenges that they have is obviously keeping up with the Amazon expectation. So I'm an Amazon Prime customer, and my expectation is I order something, I rarely pay for shipping, and I get it within a couple of days. And I think a lot of brands are struggling with that. So how brands can solve that problem is obviously good software and good process and being very fast. And then the other part of that strategy is to have your inventory, move your inventory closer to where your customers are. So to go back to that US example, I'm on the East Coast. If I had inventory and fulfillment operations that could serve the West Coast without me having to fly shipments over. So if I could just fulfill and do ground delivery and still get it there in 2 days, that would be a huge benefit. So we see that as the big thing that's coming, and because we've been lucky enough to get customers that both do their own fulfillment and our 3PL partners, we're starting to connect that. That's like the next big step for us, is connecting those two together.
I think you make an excellent point there, because distribution tends to be very, very costly. It's when your product is really at the highest end of its value added. And a lot of manufacturers will think, well, now I have to put manufacturing on the other coast to be able to be closer so that I can service from my warehouse. But what you're suggesting is not so much that, but you do have to move the product. You have to move product to be closer for that order. And I think that's a real change, in terms of how people are doing business. And what you've said in terms of, Amazon has sort of set the standard. I'm also an Amazon Prime, and it's your expectations are totally different, now.
And Nicholas, tell us your website again and how people can reach you.
Sure, it's ShipHero.com.
Oh, I'm going to ask you one question. How did you come up with that title?
Well, I guess it was just there may have been Scotch involved, but we were going through a number of names, and it seemed for us to be, how could we make the people when we started, it was really about the people in the warehouse. How can you identify and have great heroes in your company? And their shipping. So we added those two together, and there we go. We got ShipHero.
It's just a great name. It really is. It's very explanatory and everything. Thank you so much, Nicholas Daniel Richards,
welcome,
for
Tom.
joining us today.
Yep. Thank you, sir, and Anne, it was a pleasure talking.
You are listening to Ann Daw and Don Mazzella, and the program is Food and Wine Insider. If you have a question or know someone you think our listeners should hear, contact us at foodandwineinsider.com.
To be successful, most restaurant owners require extra capital from time to time. When you need funding to renovate, buy equipment, or manage cash flow, you don't have time to track down financial statements or wait weeks for a decision. That's where Kabbage can help. Kabbage gives small businesses access to a line of credit of up to $200,000. Apply online and you'll get a decision right away. Since Kabbage is a line of credit, you can take the exact amount you need. You never have to reapply to take additional loans, and you'll only pay for the funds you use. Kabbage has helped more than 230,000 businesses from every industry. And with $4 billion in funding, Kabbage is A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau and was named the Forbes Top 100 Companies twice in a row. Check out Kabbage at kabbage.com/food-and-wine, and you'll get a $50 gift card when you qualify. That's kabbage.com/food-and-wine. Line of credit is subject to credit approval. See terms and conditions.
Dan Perkins here from Recalculating.biz. I want to tell you about Bob Bethel. Bob's new book is Strengthen Your Business, Fail-Proof Strategies for Small Business. His suggestions are easy to understand and very helpful. Bob Bethel's book, Strengthen Your Business, can be found at Amazon.com or can be ordered at your local bookstore. Dan Perkins with your featured book.
And you know our next guest very well. She is Laurie Cummins. She's with Grossinger's Provisions. That's the name, but doesn't tell you half the story. So I'm going to just turn it over to you and Laurie for what I promise to be a very enjoyable time.
Thanks, Don. Just by way of introduction, Laurie Cummins is President and CEO of Grossinger's Provisions and Alexian Pate. The company makes all-natural pâtés and specialty meats in New Jersey since 1982. So, Laurie, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Anne. I'm delighted to be here.
I'd like you to talk a little bit about the origin of the business. And if I understand it correctly, your husband had originally started the business. I would love for you to just talk about that.
Sure. I had a business education at Boston College and in Massachusetts, and I started in the home furnishings textile business. And I was up in the New England area and then got promoted and transferred to New York City. And I actually met my husband skiing, and he had a small processing business in New Jersey and made hot dogs for the New Jersey boardwalk. And we got, he did a lot of traditional German deli products such as liverwurst, bolognas, and loaves. And we married and started working together in this business.
So tell me how the company has evolved to you're now being the president and the CEO.
Right. Well, so we left the German deli product business sort of started dying with the second generation Germans just weren't eating German stuff anymore. They were preferring American food, and we went into French charcuterie, and I just lost my train of thought there for a second.
We were talking about how you came to be the president and the CEO of
Oh, right.
Yes,
sorry. No, so
that's okay.
So we had this business going, and then my husband died very suddenly in 1994 of lung cancer, and he died only 21 days after he was diagnosed. And so I was left with this struggling business and two small children, 3 and 5 years old. And that's really how I came into running the business. But up till that point, I'd really only been doing marketing and sales in the business. And then, of course, when he passed, that left me with doing everything in the business, and not all of which had I been educated or trained to do. I knew nothing about producing any kind of meat product whatsoever. I certainly didn't have that strong of a financial background and all the other types of knowledge that you need to run a business.
So what did you find yourself having to do at that, pivotal point? Because it certainly was a dramatic change in terms of what happened in your family and the business. What were the first things that you found yourself focusing on to take the business forward?
Interesting question. And surprisingly, the first thing that I really had to tend to was money, because when the bank had found out that my husband passed away, they literally tried to come in and close loans. That we had several of them, and they were putting me under tremendous pressure because one of our loans had ballooned, and they weren't going to give me another loan, and we didn't have the money to pay it off, and it was a total horror show, really. And I went bank shopping, and eventually, after a long struggle with banks, found one that would work with me, and we did some really, really creative financing. And had it not been for the bank, I couldn't have gotten that leg up, because we were quite struggling at the time, and my house mortgage also came due, and the bank and my house, the business and the house were cross-collateralized. So that meant that we may well have been out in the street, because they weren't prepared to refinance the mortgage, and I had to reapply, and they turned that down as well. So had I not found the other bank, it could have been even uglier.
Wow.
But we found the bank, and we went forward, and just day by day, and I told my staff that this is the situation, we're going to make a go of it, this is what I'm going to do, and was really very open with all of them along the process. As we made each little success, it was shared with them, and we just, you have a vision, and you just go, and you don't look to either side. It's like driving in New York City. You just don't look behind you. You just go forward. Yeah.
It takes great strength to do with what you did. Did you have other sources of funds? Were you funding the business yourself besides the bank? Did you have other infusions of cash to keep the business going?
Negative.
Wow.
No, nothing. We really had to rely on what cash was coming in, and on what the bank was able to do for us. And we did a commercial loan, and a commercial SBA loan, and a jumbo mortgage loan. I had some equity in my house, which was very fortunate that I did have that property. And between the two of them, we had enough money to pay off several smaller loans and get out from under. And in the end, I actually had some cash left over and a loan from me personally to the business, which I'm still getting paid out on. So it was great. In the end, I was very lucky.
So is there a lesson learned in all of that, in terms of just as you think about how people look to fund their businesses, any sort of lessons learned you'd like to share?
I guess you just really have to, I think you really have to show your passion. When you're in front of a bank and you really believe in something, if you can show it, and you can get it if you're willing to work hard for it and get out there and just believe that, that it's going to happen for you. It might not happen sooner, it might happen later, but I just don't believe in the word no.
That's terrific. And someone certainly much smarter than me said, there's two things I look for. One is the passion, and two, are you making money in the business? And I'm sure the banks must have seen that, there was a profitability in the business. Otherwise, they probably wouldn't have supported you going forward.
Well, that's true. And the other thing that I found out much, much, much later was that the person way up there who actually authorized this loan had told the loan officer who did the footwork for the loan, after he'd spoken with me on the phone and met me, he said, do that loan for that woman, whatever it takes. And he went on to explain that he believed in what I was saying, and he just knew I'd be making a success of it. And I think that told me a lot.
Yes, no, absolutely. I'd like to talk now about your products. You have a business that requires refrigeration. You have some new creations: a rosemary smoked sausage, a saucisson smoked sausage, and for the first time, a specialty cracker. I thought let's start on the sort of the pate side. How is pate different from foie gras? And because I think people use the terms interchangeably, but I would love for you to talk about your products and talk about pate versus foie gras and what you actually produce.
Well, I have to tell you, that is such a great question about foie gras. I'm so glad you asked it because we frequently have to clarify that. So I'll start there, if I may. Alexian is the brand name of our pate products, and we don't use any foie gras. For those who don't really know what foie gras means, it is a French word, and it translates to English as something like fatty liver or fat liver. Usually it's associated with duck or goose liver. It can be either. It's typically considered a delicacy. It's very creamy, it's very rich, and very expensive. But it developed a very controversial reputation because its production requires the practice of what's loosely called force feeding the animal, so that the animal will grow a very fatty liver. And arguments abound with regard to the degree of humaneness in the practice, but suffice to say it's not popular with animal rights groups. But with that being said, I can state that there are many ranches in the USA that do not use that practice of overfeeding, and they raise normal-sized animals with normal-sized livers. And these are the sources of supply that Alexian uses.
Okay, talk a little bit about some of your products and the challenges of a product that requires refrigeration. Your shelf life and the expectations of distributors in terms of how much time has to be available on your product before they'll move it through the system.
Sure. So all of our products are, of course, refrigerated. We make them fresh. We almost produce to order. We don't freeze anything. And everything has a 75, 80-day shelf life, but we produce within pretty much a 5-day cycle as much as we can. So timelines and logistical considerations are really paramount. One of the problems we have is space for raw materials, because the space is finite for refrigerated products. So you always have to know what you've got for raw material and what you can manage for finished products. And because if trailers don't come on time for their scheduled pickups, it can be a huge problem where orders are backing up and you just don't have the room for them. And that is, it's a frequent problem, actually. Mm-hmm. But temperature is a huge thing for us. We constantly monitor it, and we record all of our room and product temperatures all the time. temperature is one of our critical control points in terms of chilling down product after we cook it, because we have to inhibit spore growth, and the product has to chill down within a particular temperature range within a particular time. And so your A team really has to include a professional commercial and industrial refrigeration technician who will respond promptly to any temperature deviations that you can have. The distribution channel it can be very short, or it can be very long, from us to the distributor, and then out to possibly another distribution point, and then distributed down to the actual retail stores. Because our type of product doesn't go into one warehouse. It usually gets store door distributed. And so there are lots of points along the distribution chain that have to control temperature also in order for the product to retain its integrity.
Yeah. You're dealing with an agricultural product and ingredients. Have you found from time to time sort of the price of your raw materials creates an issue in terms of you're making the product and being able to be profitable? And what do you do about that? Do you adjust pricing? Do you just eat it for a period of time? Do you purchase out so that you can control over time sort of the pricing of your raw materials? Just would love you to chat a little bit about that in terms of the challenges that can present.
I almost hate for you to put it out there in the universe because we're concerned mostly with the prices of pork, beef, eggs, and also chicken, which are commodity products, and they are vulnerable to market swings. Some of the factors that cause these swings are outbreak of disease, the anticipation of domestic and export demand, weather anomalies that create havoc with feed, and we set our prices about 2 months in advance when we have a price change, and we will always hold them unless we see a substantial elevation for a sustained period of time. But generally speaking, we try to absorb what we can. We had a huge problem a few years ago with pork, and then, or I think it was beef, and then it was pork, and then more recently with eggs. We've been hit, with 3 different things at 3 different times. And so your margins are likely to vary throughout the year or the month or the week, but not so much that you shouldn't be able to absorb it. And if it becomes sustained, then you just simply have to raise your price. The problem is that some of our distributors require 2 and 3 month notices before they'll even move. So, sometimes you need a little bit of a cushion there.
Yeah. No, I mean, clearly that's a great point. Laurie, what does the consumer eat your product instead of?
I'm not so sure that they do eat it instead of anything, but I really don't know. But I think of it more. I think of pate and sausage, not so much sausage, but pate as an essential member of a family of appetizer and hors d'oeuvre items that join cheeses and fruit and other charcuterie items. Sausage, of course, can be an anything, anywhere type of product. Ours is smoked, so it's a ready-to-eat product, and it can be eaten cold, it can be eaten warm, it can be eaten for breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks. So your sense is that it's an all-occasion product, not necessarily just a special occasion product. When people are, having guests and they want to have something special to present. it can be everyday product. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You have a USDA facility because you're dealing with meat. What are the challenges in having that oversight?
Well, the first thing that it really requires is that the facility itself has to be built using specific materials that are impervious to bacterial growth, and also that encourage or permit linear traffic flow from raw production to finished production. And it also has implications for how you set up your process and your programs and your controls, preventing commingling of raw versus finished products, allergen controls, cooking and chilling temperatures, cleaning and sanitation protocols. And the USDA is concerned with all of these things. We have an inspector on site. But in fact, we design our own programs that control all of these things that I've just mentioned. And we monitor and we record our readings, and that provides us a way to check back if there's ever a complaint about our product. We can see what we did and if there were any deviations from what we did that might have caused this problem. And so although the inspector is on site, we really write the program, and he's there to check that we are in fact doing what we say we're doing in our programs. And they also are here they test finished product for biological contaminants on a certain basis, probably weekly or bi-weekly they do it, and they do random testing of different products. Yeah.
I have another question. I don't think I asked you where you're distributed. Are you national? Are you a regional product in retail?
Yeah, no, we're nationally distributed. We even go out to the islands and Hawaii and Caribbean, but all over the country.
And I think you also sell to food service. Is that correct, Laurie?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Is there what just in general terms, percent of your business is sort of retail versus food service? And would love for you to talk a little bit about the challenges of selling into food service versus retail, which is harder and why?
We do a lot more retail than food service, and it's just happened organically that way, not through any. Honestly, I really don't know, but I would say our business is probably about 80% retail and 20% food service. And the only reason I say that is because I don't know exactly is because of the nature of distribution. We aren't able to know all of our customers. We know all of our major retailers, of course, but because we could go to the odd restaurant anywhere in the country or a hotel, we could be on a ship, but we don't always necessarily know that because the distributor will make that sale for us. I love food service. The other issue about food service that somewhat impacts us, although I don't know how much, is that chefs sometimes like to make their own pâtés. They like to show their own creativity, and so that could be possibly a challenge for us. But food service is a great opportunity.
Do you find it's easier or harder than selling into retail, and why is that?
I don't know if I could comment on how hard or easy it might be, but I could tell you that it's not as expensive as selling into retail because of the promotional considerations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You are a big proponent of WeBank, which is the women-owned business enterprise. and you are a woman-owned business. What does it mean to you, and why is the work that they do so important?
Oh, golly, yeah. We've been certified with WeBank since 2005. It is the gold standard of women business certifications. It's a hard certification to get. It requires a lot of financial disclosure and even a site visit for verification. But they have a huge membership of corporations that have diversity programs, and these companies reserve a portion of their spend for vendors of minority status. So it's really important for me because they're corporations like Kroger and Super Value supermarket chains, of which there are several, all the airlines, and even financial institutions, which is fabulous for financing. But they also sponsor a lot of women's networking events and conferences, which are absolutely fabulous. The conferences, educational conferences for business education and networking as well. So I'm a really big believer in WeBank. I think it's a tremendous advantage for women for not only seeking additional business opportunity, but also for financing. It's a great tool for credibility and.
Okay. About the future, what are some of the things that keep you up at night, and what might succession look like for your company?
Actually, not much keeps me up at night, not usually anyway. I try to keep everything in proper perspective in terms of what's important to me, and the most important thing to me is the safety of my employees and the health of the people who eat our products. And everything else is below that. So if there was an issue that had to do with either of those two things, that would definitely keep me up at night. But we're producing at nearly capacity at the moment, which is really exciting. And this past year, we've been working on plans for a large renovation of our building and improvement of our processes to maximize our efficiency so that we can produce more in this location. With regard to succession, my daughter, she's 30. She'll be 31 next month. She joined me 3 years ago, and by this time, I thought I'd be semi-retired. But instead of that, instead of half the energy, together we just are doubling energy. I thought I'd be stepping back, but instead we're just stepping up as a team, and it's been really fun and very exciting. But I'm thinking in a couple of years, probably I'll be slowing down a bit.
And she is also half the name of Alexian Pate, is she not?
Yes, she is. Yeah. When my husband passed away, I sort of wanted to memorialize him and his formulations, and so I named this brand after my two children, which they're Alexandra and Ian, and hence Alexian. So, and it also has sort of an international sound to it, so it's worked out. It's been really a nice name.
Well, Laurie, I've enjoyed having you on the show. We've actually gone a little over time, and it's been terrific. The time went very, very quickly. I'm going to turn it back to Don so he can be sure that people are aware of how they can get to know you and when the post will be up on Food and Wine Insider. Don, back to you.
Well, Laurie, your website where people can learn about your products and if they want to talk to you?
Sure. www.alexianpate.com.
Can you spell it out because this is radio?
Sure. Yes, of course. ALEXIANPATE.com.
Well, thank you so much for Laurie for joining us today. It's been a great pleasure.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Don, for having me. Appreciate it.
You've been listening to Food and Wine Insider with Ann Daw and Don Mazzella. Want to join us on a future show? Contact us at foodandwineinsider.com. Until next time, have a passion for food, wine, and profits, and think of our program, Food and Wine Insider.